Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to be talking about Porter's 5 forces. So it is definitely important in market kind of competitive measurement because you'll get to know later that Porter's 5 forces actually something that talks about the industry structure. But however, just to understand Porter's 5 forces is relatively easy and we'll start right now. Okay, so understanding industry structures and Porter's 5 forces was proposed by Michael Porter in 1979. So who is Michael Porter? Let's know about. Yeah. So Michael Eugene Porter is an American economist, researcher, author, and teacher. So many people call him or rank him as the father of modern strategy field, and he's one of the most influential thinkers on management. So he's currently 73 years old, and his contributions include that we may get to talk about later, Porter's hypothesis, Porter's 5 forces we're talking today, and Porter's 4 corners model. And he's actually a professor at Harvard Business School. And today I'm talking about, actually I'm involved, like student in Walton. Suppose he's teaching Harvard Business School. I think such a pity that he actually should be teaching in Walton School. Okay, and his prior experiences include he actually served as a counselor of strategies to governments of many nations, and he was an international organization and NPO's strategist as well. And currently, and I think I don't know the specific year, but he's a co-founder of consulting firm, not film, Monitor Group and FSG. Yeah. So this is about Michael Porter, and now I'm going to introduce Porter's 5 forces. So I want to make a disclaimer that there can be other names given to these forces, like for instance, degree of rivalry. Some people say market rivalry, and for bargaining power of buyers, some people say strength of buyers. So really depends. There's kind of a, I don't know. There's definitely an original version proposed by Porter, but many people reword it. So it's definitely fine if you think something different, and it'll be the same meaning, by the way. Okay. So first of all, we have degree of rivalry, and then we have threat of new entrants. And then we also have threat of substitutes and bargaining power of suppliers and buyers. Okay, so now we want to start to break down our forces. Everybody knows these forces right here, right? Costco and Target. Okay, so degree of rivalry here is actually how strong is competition in the market. So we're thinking about when we're actually combating in a new market, when we may be considering entering a new market, what we have to think about is how competitive is this market. Definitely, it doesn't mean that it is competitive and you should not actually join this market, but it's something that just for your consideration. So how strong in the competition in the market, which we'll see later, is highly linked to this new entrant strat, highly linked to the substitutes, also bargaining power. So you definitely will be able to make some links between these forces at the end of this video. And threat of new entrants, I think you can infer from this word, is that we're thinking about the new target, new competitors in this market. So for instance, we may have Costco and Target, but like I know they're dominating the sales, but in some market, even new entrants can be threatening. Like they may be able to get market shares in the blink of an eye. They may be able to definitely get a lot of revenue in a short amount of time. Does it mean Costco and Target don't face threat of new entrants? I would say right now, I don't think this is a problem right now because you'll see later it is like oligopoly, which means a few producers or enterprises are actually dominating the whole market. So in this case, I would say Costco and Target are not facing the threat of new entrants right now as of United States. Like Costco, Target, and Walmart, of course they're competitors, but like these three are kind of dominating, or you can say Burlington as well, and we also have something else. But like mostly we don't have many wholesalers competing because Costco, Target, Walmart, these firms too popular right now. Okay, so strategy of substitutes is about can customers easily substitute the brand. So if customers is able to substitute the brand they switch from this brand to that brand tomorrow, then possibly there is this threat of substitute. So you have to compete with these competitors because the customers can switch from buying yours to buying one of the substitutes. And is a product market price elastic or price inelastic? So this concept is relatively important if you don't know about it. So price elastic means like how it's like the number of customers buying a product increases when you decrease the price. So this means like this actually infers that this market is highly substitutable, because in that case, people like, if I'm buying product A right now and product B actually decreases the price, let's say it's tissue paper. If product B decreases the price, then customers will head to product B, and the number of customers that increases from buying A to product B is larger than the price percentage decrease. So let's say the price from product A is $5 and product B say, oh, I want to decrease the price to $3, and now I'm decreasing by blah 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 percent. You can calculate it. I think it's 40%. But then if the customers increase by more than 40%, then it is price elastic. So given some examples, I would say many products price elastic. Like I mentioned before, tissue paper definitely is, because I would say in the market, sometimes you just find whatever the cheaper option is. So like if you see a tissue paper like 150 sheet, then you may consider like, if this 150 sheet is $5, if this 150 sheet is $2, I think most people will take the 2, because for tissue paper, I think the quality is same. Like there's no dominating brand in the tissue paper industry that we have to buy specifically because of the brand quality and brand image. Even same thing, I think even same for a lot of product like chips. Even for like chips, you may like a brand, but sometimes people buy the one that decreases price, like biscuits as well, bread. I would say bread, even toys for children, your clothing. Sometimes for the clothing, if you're not looking for like Gucci or Supreme. So I would say many products are dependent on the price: pork, chicken, and duck. Yeah, and price inelastic more like even if someone decreases the price, more people still stick to the one with original price. So there can be two scenarios in terms of price elastic. The first scenario is that the product is not possible to be produced by another kind of a company. For instance, electricity. If electricity is only produced by a government organization like National Electricity or National Housing Development Board, something like that, then it will be price elastic, that even if they increase the price, everybody still requires electricity. So we have to buy from the government. We have to buy the electricity from the government. We cannot buy from private enterprises. And second scenario is that brand image or brand quality is like, there's a product, private enterprise, like you like this product to a certain extent that even if its price is higher compared to the competitors, even the competitors are lowering the price, you will still buy the price, while you will still buy from the company with higher price, because you think the quality, the brand image is high. You already have this customer loyalty, which means you want to repetitively purchase from this specific enterprise. So that is the second scenario. And the fourth case is the bargaining power of buyers. So this means like, what do you mean by bargaining power of buyers? Like, how can buyers negotiate the price? So if the bargaining power of buyers is high, they can basically get cheaper prices. But if it's low, they have to actually follow the price set by the suppliers. So you may ask these two questions: is that, first of all, is supply larger than demand or smaller than demand? So I think when in this theoretical point of view, if the supply is larger than demand, I would say now the bargaining power of buyers is relatively high, because more people, there are more suppliers than the people who want to buy this product. So in this case, I think they have to lower the price. And if the smaller than demand, supplier smaller than demand, you'll be a little bit more competitive. But actually that doesn't mean, like question A doesn't mean the bargaining power of buyer is low or high, because sometimes even though the supplies smaller than demand, which means in a theoretical point of view, the price supposed to be expensive, supposed to be able to rise, but still the business may compete to lower the price. And the second question is, are buyers concentrated? Are buyers concentrated is basically on, well, so later, if we have only one buyer like Walmart and we have no choice to who to sell to, then a buyer will have pretty low, I would say pretty high. If we have like only Walmart to sell a product to, then a buyer has high bargaining power. And vice versa is bargaining power of suppliers. And you can ask this question such as, are sellers concentrated? Okay, so now start with degree of rivalry. So we may consider this interesting question that we should buy Oreo or Crawford, we should buy Dairy Milk or Hershey's. Okay, so start with degree of rivalry. It is high when products are easily substitutable, because then we can buy Oreo or Crawford, and if Oreo lowers the price, Crawford may face the crisis because you'll lose market share. When Crawford raises the price, lowers the price, Oreo may face certain problems. And market's price elastic, and switching costs are low, which means if you buy Crawford, you don't have to have high switching costs, right? You just buy Oreo, then otherwise you just buy Crawford, and like Dairy Milk and Hershey's as well. But sometimes there is high switching costs, like buying laptops. So if you have everything Apple, here's Huawei, but if you have everything Apple and you suddenly want to buy like Huawei TV, like it may be high switching costs involved, because there may be high switching costs involved because like if you want to do IoT, which means you want to connect all devices together, you better be the same brand sometimes. Like if you have Xiaomi for your TV, Xiaomi for fridge, Xiaomi for your phone, then most likely switching costs will be high if you buy a Apple computer. So you try to like make like combination of same device, same brand. And other than that, there are many examples of the switching cost, even like switching cost of I would say configuration, like if you're making a SIM card or something. Yeah, so switching costs are low, and there isn't significant brand domination, which means like there's not a brand that to the extent that even with high price, everybody will buy from this brand. So it is about degree of rivalry. If there's high degree of rivalry, we can also say that the product is easily substitutable and the products are price elastic. I would say closer to price elastic. Otherwise, people will still stick to the brand even though the price is high. And the market must not be a monopoly or oligopoly. So monopoly and oligopoly it is a bit confusing in the modern days context because we don't really have a pure monopoly. Even like you will know some examples later. And most companies are actually oligopoly, which means market share by number of producers. Everybody knows Cola and Coca-Cola and Pepsi, so two of them are dominating the Coke market. And vice versa for low degree of rivalry. So low degree of rivalry happens when products are not easily substitutable, market is price inelastic, switching costs are relatively high, there is significant brand domination by a specific company or companies, and the market is I think most likely an oligopoly. Okay, now talk about monopoly. What is an example of monopoly? In our world today, there isn't an exact monopoly, as I mentioned before, because we have more than one business in every market. But however, we have a lot of monopolies, including these examples here, and we can also say like Microsoft. For instance, with Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google. Like, why they are not pure monopoly? Because Apple has competitors as well. We have Samsung, we have LG, we have Huawei. We have a lot of phone brands actually, but still it's actually dominating the market. There's no actually exact monopoly as of one brand dominating 100% of the market share. It's not possible right now today. But Apple is kind of dominating a lot. And like if we combine Apple with like Huawei or Samsung, like we have three of them already dominating the majority of the phone market. Rather than like for chips or for biscuit we have like hundreds of biscuit manufacturers, but for phone we don't have much. And even if we have much, like we have a few, I think like more than 10 I would say, but still only this Apple or we can say Samsung or Huawei are dominating this industry, like mobile phone industry. Same for Amazon. Like Amazon, especially in the United States, I would highly consider it as a monopoly in terms of e-commerce shopping. He has some competitors. Amazon do have competitors across the world. In the US with eBay, and in China there's Alibaba. But most likely, Amazon is actually dominating all the sales in the United States in terms of e-commerce. So I would consider that as a monopoly. Netflix as well. You may argue that YouTube is a competitor. Yeah, it is possible, but Netflix in terms of like online movie watching platform, I think it is already in monopoly because it's dominating high, and Google as well. Like I know there's other search engines, I know there's Bing, I know there is Yahoo search, but guys, to be honest, everybody uses Google, isn't it? Except people who can't use in China. Like people who are able to access Google, I think most people do use Google, even though they might use they might use Yahoo search, but definitely Google is one of the highest, I'll say, most considerable monopolies in our market. Okay, so what is an example of oligopoly? So I would say the following examples I discussed just now do fall into this category because the official definition of oligopoly is that a small number of producers dominate the market share of a particular market. So like Google is dominating, Netflix and YouTube are dominating, and Amazon, eBay I would say dominating, and I would say Apple, Samsung, and Huawei dominate the mobile phone market. But I want to share an interesting example that everybody knows. It is Cola and Pepsi. So Coca-Cola and Pepsi actually is a great example of oligopoly because both of them actually are the only businesses manufacturing Cokes in the world, because they are like accidentally discovered by chemists and pharmacists. So for Pepsi, it's discovered by its founder, who is a pharmacist. Like one day in the lab, he find out this flavor, interesting flavor, and he named it Pepsi. And for Coke, it's a little bit different. So the founder is actually the person who founded Coke. Also, the flavor is actually a chemist from the U.S. I think it's from the U.S. Yes, but then he sold it to a businessman. So now the co-founder or the founder is actually not the one who discovered Coke, but like it's the one who actually bought Coke over from the chemist. So this is a great example of oligopoly, because even though people do argue Coke or Pepsi is better, Coke or Pepsi, which one's better, lore, but like definitely there are some differences said by the critics. But these two brands are doing pretty well in the market because only two of them have Coke, and people do like Coke across the world, and they can only buy from these two brands. Like, yeah, definitely they're getting a lot of money. Okay, threats of new entrants. Guys, have you seen this coffee? Pepsi coffee that is actually coming out this year? Must try, right? This is actually Pepsi coffee, and I don't know whether you'll succeed or not, but seems cool like from the packaging. So threat of new entrants is high when the product or service is substitutable, when the switching cost is low, because I would say this slide is a bit similar to the rivalry of new. It's a bit like similar to the degree of new rivalry, because we're considering like threats. But threat of new entrants basically when this product is substitutable again, because otherwise people will buy from existing brands, and the switching cost has to be low. Otherwise, it'll be too costly for people to buy from the new entrants, even though its price is low. So yeah, and usually the market definitely should not be like monopoly or oligopoly, and there shouldn't be any domination of brands. Demand should be price elastic, because otherwise people will buy from existing brands, and new entrants are taking innovative approaches. I would say this is important because sometimes, even though the market may be dominated by a specific industry, specific enterprises, but the time changes, so sometimes new entrants do win a lot of revenues if they take innovative approaches and they do succeed. However, new entrants are highly difficult due to its finance difficulties and its kind of a market research problems and its current scale. But however, some new entrants are taking innovative approaches in this 21st century, and they are actually capable of getting sales. So yeah, this is something to consider as well. And if the new entrant is an existing popular enterprise entering a new market, there can be high stress. So take an example of here. You actually see color with Pepsi coffee, and Pepsi coffee is interesting because it is a new player in the coffee market, but originally it is popular already. You guys know it's popular in the Coke market, so it's still a question mark whether Pepsi coffee will succeed. But I would say the threat is considerably high because this is an existing popular enterprise. So even though it is new enterprise, it is a new entrant in the coffee market, but this brand is already popular. So even though nobody has tried Pepsi's coffee before, but if they release coffee into the coffee industry, people who like to drink Coke, these customers may be brought to buy this coffee in the coffee industry. So this can be a threat. It's pretty important and interesting as well. Okay, threat of substitute is high when there isn't significant brand loyalty or brand domination like tissue paper. I would say most likely there's no domination, and the production of this particular good isn't regulated. Because if it's regulated, we're not able to substitute. Like if only a few companies are able to produce, then even if we want to produce, the government won't allow us to produce. And then the product or service has to be price elastic, and similar qualities can be achieved, which means your quality disparity shouldn't be too large, that otherwise people won't buy from these substitutes. And switching costs are low, and brand image isn't of great importance. Okay, now moving on to the bargaining power buyers. So bargaining power buyers is about like what the price that the buyers can get. If the buyers are able to get a high price, like a low price, then it will considerably consider that they have actually a high bargaining power. But if they have to follow the price set by the suppliers, which is relatively high, then what do they want to have? Then probably I'll say the bargaining power buyers is relatively low. Say okay, it's high when buyers are concentrated, and we know monopoly just now, but this is actually monopsony. Monopsony is basically when buyers are concentrated, that even suppliers, there may be a lot of suppliers, but they only have one choice to where to sell to, like Walmart. So they have to lower the price because Walmart has many choices. So it usually happens when supply outdo demand, because in this case, when less people wanting the product than the amount produced, so people try to lower the price to get the product sold. And buyers have low switching costs, which means buyers can choose for a wide variety of enterprises rather than one enterprise, like one supplier. They can choose from a lot of suppliers, like Walmart. And buyer success doesn't depend on seller's quality. Yeah, this is also interesting. This means the same thing, that the buyers will have a lot of choices based on a lot of businesses. For instance, taking the best example is Walmart, definitely, but I want to clearly adopt that buyers does mean customers. Definitely, when we're discussing the bargaining power buyers, it can be me and you. But for instance, we take Walmart for example. Walmart has more power than many businesses. So if you sell to Walmart, you can get a good order, but they have many chances. This means like every supplier is looking to sell to Walmart, but the problem is that they can choose between many suppliers because we don't have much buyers like Walmart in our market. So like Walmart can choose from you, can choose from me. So basically we have the lower price to be chosen by Walmart. So there are many yous in this market. And on the other hand, the bargaining power of supplier is low. Okay, now let's talk about the bargaining power of supplier, and now it's actually monopoly. So it is high when suppliers are concentrated, which means it's monopoly. For instance, Coke and Pepsi, they are concentrated. So if we are the buyer and they are the supplier who are actually selling the goods to us, we don't have many choices. So like if we like Coca-Cola, so an interesting example not about buying product is pilot strike. So pilot strike, actually pilots are employees within an airline company, but if they actually go on strike and protest, planes can't actually operate. So in this point of view, they actually have high bargaining power as suppliers, because if they stop working, the airlines can't make any money, because even though these pilots are the employees belonging to the airlines, but if they all go into a strike, planes can't operate, can't fly. So as a result, maybe they have high bargaining power as mentioned. So as a result, maybe the business may have to raise salaries for them. They have to give them more rest, more holidays, and provide them with a better work environment in order to convince them back to fly the planes. And now the role of complement. So the role of complement is relatively easy. That when you buy a product, you have to buy another. So if the particular product rises and you have the price of another product, well, probably, if the price of one product rises, the demand for both product may drop because people want to have both. And same thing, if the price of one product actually drops, and people will most likely increase the demand for both of the product. For instance, I don't know if this is a great example, but many people do have both Xbox and PlayStation 4, but many people only have one, I would say. Fair enough. But many people have both, and the reason is relatively easy. That some games are exclusive. You want to have both in order to play the games involved in both parties. And same example on the fast food industry, like you talk about hamburgers and fries, you always combine them. It is even more stronger than this Xbox and PlayStation combination, that people who usually buy a burger have to buy a packet of fries. And now the role of substitution. This is interesting. And for instance, I know people may like Lay's, people may like a particular brand, but it's still easily substitutable, especially when you eat chips. You can't eat one for the whole month. You have to switch. Otherwise, you kind of find it's not really good if you eat the same brand over a long time. So definitely chips are highly substitutable. You definitely can buy, sometimes you can buy Lay's, sometimes you buy this Ruffle. You might even buy these old brand English potato chips with better flavors. So this is an example of substitution. And an interesting thing to talk about is this a matter of substitution? This is H&M ties and Omaha steaks from Omaha, Nebraska. So if you compare both, it doesn't seem like there's a matter of substitution, right? Because it's supposed to be Thai compared with Thai, Omaha steak compared let's say another steak compared say Wagyu steak. But why are they substitution? Is this a matter of substitution? Yes. Father's Day is coming up in 21st June, coming out very soon, and actually you guys know coming out actually in 10 days, and children have to decide whether they should buy a Thai for their father or to buy a piece of Omaha steak for a mouth-watering dinner. So sometimes substitution, sometimes competition doesn't really rely on market. So please remember this, especially when there's I would say Father's Day festivals like this, or when two stores are located closely together. So imagine there's a Thai shop and there's a steak shop close together. They actually substitution because people may want to buy a Thai or may want to buy a steak, although it's not really direct. It's not really a direct competition, but substitution can happen anywhere. So really beware of it. So you can devise the best strategies, even though you can lower the price, but you can devise the best strategies in order to gain your sales. Okay, lastly, I want to talk about the role of institution. So institution basically means governments regulating the production or like regulating business operations or product quality. So example is International Organization for Standardization, like the ISO quality assurance, and you can also talk about OSHA, which is Occupational Safety and Health Administration under U.S. Department of Labor, and FDA, which kind of is in charge managing the food, beverages, and the drugs of the U.S. So it's Food and Drug Administration. With the role of institution, sometimes production may be regulated, and sometimes definitely drugs are regulated, and sometimes sometimes I would say like they will regulate the price also even in capitalist society, because sometimes people during the wealth gap problems, during the problems where inflation happens, actually the people can't really afford many products, and actually businesses will voluntarily reduce the price, but some of the government will also play a role in regulating this in order so people can buy actually cheaper products. So during this recession period. So lastly, what is the industry's unattractive? So the first strategy that our group think about is raise switching costs. So raising switching costs will actually kind of make a move to stick to our product. Like we try to innovate our product while it's linked to innovation. So even if there's high switching costs, definitely people will stick to our product, but like there's a prerequisite that our product must be good and must be innovative. Otherwise, people will switch to another product. So the second method is differentiate. So try to differentiate from your basically that's innovation. Try to differentiate from your competitors in order to kind of form a product that is unique, to be prevalent in the market. And the third thing is actually depends on if it's lawful or not. You can actually coordinate with other companies to actually like do kind of mergers thing in order to win your product. And the next part is actually, but the movie companies may have too much power right now. For instance, Netflix had good movies, but movie companies have too much power. So even though they may get a lot of revenues by they're making a lot of revenues by selling these movies, but if the movie companies actually stop licensing to Netflix, they're not able to actually sell any movies in the market. So that's why Netflix now, if you guys know, is actually making their own content to reduce the power supplier. So even though Netflix may not be able to hold certain movies licensed by other producers, they have a lot of movies from outsiders, but like they're now also making their own content to reduce the power suppliers. And lastly, they can also lobby the government, which means they can influence the government in a lawful way, like protests, or like they do petitions, or like they do corporations. So in order to lobby the government, they can like kind of ask the government to spend more budget in expanding to a particular market, basically to increase its proposal budget to be spent on particular industry, like to direct the government into particular market. So it can be also drill. And I think the most useful drill, but it's also most difficult drill, is actually innovation, because innovation is relatively difficult in the market, and innovation is hard because it sounds pretty cool, but it's pretty hard, especially for small businesses. Definitely the way small businesses to win the market have to be innovation, but they don't have the finance, and they don't have the organizational structure, they don't have experts. So currently in the market, the innovative companies are still those large businesses, but in the future, I think eventually the large businesses are going to be eliminated. So there are going to be chances for the small businesses. Okay, and to sum up this talk today on Porter's 5 forces, I think the first key is industry structure is important in driving profitability, because industry structure in terms of competitiveness, in terms of your market share, in terms of how your market works, is definitely important on whether you can drive profitability, how you drive profitability. Sometimes in a highly rivalry market, you have to lower your prices. Definitely it is an important strategy, and it's necessary to lower the price, otherwise nobody is going to buy from you. And sometimes you can actually leverage your price when you increase the quality, or when you have existing level of brand image or brand loyalty or customer loyalty. And we actually discussed how to use Porter 5 forces. Actually, it is to help in examining the industry structure and to devise, which means to initiate and plan out marketing strategies. And sometimes, actually, in my opinion, taking a step back is a better approach. For instance, you can consider entering a new market, but you can also consider globalize your business to another nation or nations. And lastly, you can exit the market if necessary. Okay, so this is all about today, and thank you for watching. And this is all about today. And next video I'm going to be talking about, actually still will stick to Porter's 5 forces, but just now this video is about talking about what is 5 forces. But in the next video, I'm going to apply Porter's 5 forces in the PPE industry, personal protective equipment industry, to have a discussion. Okay, I'll see you then. Bye.